Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to first of all begin with thanking Liam for agreeing to come and having a chat with me tonight, particularly as there's a lot of football on the telly. But that's it's great to have you along, Liam. I can't remember when was the last time I met you, but as I say, first of all, thanks for coming along and agreeing to having a chat with me.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much, Paul, for your invitation. It's great to be involved.
Well, first of all, then let's firstly kick off and sort of ask the first and most obvious question: what have you been up to lately?
Well, to be honest, I've been working, Paul. I'm a
Yes.
school teacher and teach secondary school music. So I've been working. And previous to that, during the lockdown period, I'd been just involved in various music videos and things like that. And like everyone else, trying to be as patient as possible.
Yes. What I'm particularly alluding to, though, is...
yes.
You've been busy.
Yeah, we've produced an album, the Liam Stewart Band.
Yep.
And our debut album is called As Promised. And sales are going really well. And I hope everyone who's purchased an album so far is thoroughly enjoying it.
Well, you can certainly add me to your list of people who would strongly endorse and recommend that they get a copy of that. Well, first of all, as you can see, I'm at the Arzobra Centre in Lerwick on Shetland, and
unmistakable.
Exactly, and it's empty, as you can see. The bar is closed. Never mind. The album would have been absolutely perfect for the weekend that's just gone on. Up here in Shetland. How many times have you been to Shetland? Because I think every time I've been, I've seen you.
Right. Okay. Actually, a funny story. That the first time I ever visited the Shetland Festival, I think it was 2008 or 9, thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing second box with Craig Payton's band at the time.
Right.
And I'd arrived, I'd been picked up at the airport and driven towards the Aylesbury Centre, got up to where your image is depicting at the moment.
Yeah.
And a woman said, "Oh, Liam, it's great to see you back." And she was aghast when I had said, "No, actually, this is my first time here." And she says, "No, it's not. We've seen you." And actually, what she meant was quite nice, that she had seen me at various other festivals and just assumed that I had been a regular at the Shetland one. But that was my first time. I would say maybe 5 or 6 times I've been to the festival. Obviously, I can't get there every year due to work commitments, but when I do get there, I love it. It's a fantastic weekend.
It is. It's absolutely brilliant. I think the last time I was up, the second time I came up, you were playing with Alan Crookston, piano with Alan.
That would be right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great crack, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was up again 2 years later. I'm trying to think who you were with that. You've certainly appeared with various acts, shall we say?
That's right. Yeah. I've been up there. Well, we could perhaps work out the number right now. I've been up with Craig Payton playing second box. I've been up with Alan Crookston playing piano. I've been up with Jim Cleland playing second box.
Yeah.
I had been up with my own band, and I feel as if I'm missing out one, which would maybe make 5. It's 4 or 5 anyway.
Excellent.
Yep.
In fact,
they've all been great experiences and all very different. Obviously, the band leaders that I've just mentioned, they are very different sounds and styles, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Absolutely, it's one thing that if you're like a connoisseur would know straight away. He or she would listen to a band and be able to say exactly who the band is. But yes, even somebody that wasn't familiar with the various bands would be able to pick up on some of the differences. In fact, I remember the first time I ever saw you play, and I think I spoke to you just afterwards, and it was on that tiny tiny stage at the Selkirk Accordion and Fiddle Club at the
that was a few years ago.
Yeah, at the cricket club.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think. I'm sure that you were on lead with. I'm sure it was Andy Kane on fiddle.
And I'll tell you who the drummer was. It was Max Ketchen that night.
Yeah.
That was a great night. Really cozy stage, small venue, and a great crowd from what I can remember of that gig. That could be 15 or so years ago.
Probably. Yeah. You played your Orsini compact.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've still got that accordion, of course.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember you turned to Max Ketchen and said 6/8, and he replied with 48.
Yeah, there's always a mathematician amongst the band.
Yeah. Yes. But can I take you further back to when you first started playing the accordion? What first of all made you want to play the accordion, and how did you sort of manifest that desire?
Well, truth be told, I've always been surrounded by music from a really early age. My father and my grandfather, both musicians, played in bands, always had music playing, always singing, always listening to records of every style of music, not just Scottish dance bands, but absolutely everything. And it got a hold of me at that point, and obviously there was a decision taken that I should have a wee shot at the accordion. My dad, an accordionist, my grandfather was a drummer and a fiddle player, so definitely the influences were there within the family. I could play wee bits on the accordion at the age of 7, roughly, and then I started to go for formal lessons with Ian Muir of Prestwick at the age of 8.
Wow, that's interesting. I also started, well, I was 2 months before my 8th birthday when I started. And apparently, I'd, right from an early age, I'd heard my dad play and had always said, I want to play the accordion, listen to Magnanti, Mark Signori, Tollefson, Emblo, etc. But apparently my dad had purposely, Mum and Dad had purposely decided that they would only get me an accordion once I'd sort of gone on about it enough, expressed it more than once, that it wasn't just a whimsical.
Yeah, of course, I was never forced to start any musical instrument.
Yeah.
And perhaps if I hadn't taken up the accordion at that point, maybe I wouldn't have been playing music at all. But that's all water under the bridge, and I'm so glad that I did all those years ago, those 28 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Just to sort of, particularly for the benefit of the people tuning in from further afield, what part of Scotland are we talking about? What part of Scotland do you live in? Are you from?
I live in a wee town called Galston, which is very close to Kilmarnock in Ayrshire, so south of Glasgow.
Yes. And is there a lot of the accordion and fiddle clubs in that area? Are there one or two in particular?
Not a lot now. There used to be quite a few in the good old days, if you like. Galston itself had one of the longest running accordion and fiddle clubs, and it was very successful and was closing in 40 years, I suppose. There was actually an article done on it in a recent Box and Fiddle edition. Yeah, you would get the exact dates there, but Galston was synonymous with great musicians coming to entertain as guest artists, and that's one of the first guest artist appearance that the late great Tom Alexander made, and it was David Ross, who was the secretary and treasurer of Galston, who had booked Tom Alexander, and he made his debut as a guest artist there, although he was a well-known performer at the time. Yeah. So it was always synonymous with great performers and a very knowledgeable and appreciative crowd. They liked everything from Scottish music to jazz to we got a song here and there, and they liked to be entertained. And in all the venues where Galston Accordion Club was held, that never changed. Yeah. Even before my time in the club, I spent most of my early early teens, I suppose, involved with Galston Accordion Club, playing as a soloist, backing other players, and
Yep.
my late grandfather was the compere and the chairman of the club, and you had the likes of Derek Hamilton involved in the accompaniment side, and it was just great, a great
Yeah.
melting pot for musicians and music generally.
Yeah, actually, you touched on something there. The fact that up in Shetland, I get the same sense of that they, whilst they do like their, for example, at the Grand Dance, it's all the well-known Scottish dances. They do like a real mixture of stuff. And I remember we were sort of at the bar at one of the concerts. And we were listening to all the various acts that were playing, and sometimes it was just it was a nice simple waltz that was being played, but it's nice, isn't it? It doesn't have to be all sort of flashy technical stuff.
Yeah, that's very true, because music, I often say to my pupils as well, is that music is often described as an international language.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be fast or technical or, something virtuosic. It can be very simple. It just has to grab you.
That's
So
right.
whether that hits your emotions or it communicates in some way to you, music does that. It's fantastic. I've always loved that about music.
Yes, yeah. For me, I'm dare I say it, it's. I don't know if you ever find this, Liam. I certainly find myself sometimes I'm listening to stuff, and I'm listening to what's happening in a particular part. Maybe I'm not always getting the full picture, the way that, say, a member of the audience does. But what I like about music, particularly certain harmonies, is how they take you somewhere where you haven't been before.
That's right. Well, from an early age, I've always loved listening to the intricacies of the piece of music, whether it's a Scottish dance band set, or it's a jazz piece, or it's a classical piece of music. I've always liked to kind of drill into the inner parts of the harmony and everything that's going on. I want to know everything that's going on there, and it makes you study a wee bit more. It makes you listen even harder. And sometimes you're picking up things that you perhaps didn't notice the first time, like a wee run in the bass, or a great rhythm that's happening in the drums, or whatever it is.
Sure. Listen, before we go any further, why don't we see it? Because I mentioned earlier, and I'll explain to the listeners, I normally try and play stuff off YouTube. It still is causing me huge difficulty trying to operate StreamYard and play videos at the same time. I've had faster stripes added to my computer. I've had a whole new disk drive and double the amount of RAM, and it still doesn't like to. So I'm suspicious of the fact it's nothing to do with the computer. It is purely the internet in the area. So I thought what we could do is, I've got your CD ready to play. Maybe we could play a little bit of one of the tracks, and as you're the guest, you get first pick.
Oh, right. I'm actually sitting with one of my albums here just so I can have a think about the track.
What I'll do is I'll pop it up on screen as well,
Sure.
because I've popped it into the iTunes and it all came up. So let me do this. Let me click on that. So there you go. There's all the tracks. For some reason, jumbled up.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's the very first track in the album. It's the White Heather Welcome. It's the two-step.
Yeah, Boston two-step.
The Boston two-step.
Yeah. And you want to tell us a little bit about this Boston two-step?
Well, it's a very simple tune, but a really well-known tune, the 620 two-step by the late, great Sir Jimmy Shand.
I was going to say, I remember at Haddington hearing you do a version of the Bluebell Polka.
Oh, yes.
And I'd never heard anybody put so many notes into the Bluebell Polka before.
Yeah. Quite often, if we're playing that particular piece, the Bluebell Polka, which is well known to everyone, and it's hard to put your own slant on it because everyone knows it to sound a certain way, but quite often I like to just change wee bits and improvise and keep things. It's fresh.
Oh, that's okay. I think we just had a wee pause for a moment, but you're back, so that's fine. Let me do this then. So we're going to have a little bit of the Boston two-step. Okay. Hope that came through all right for you, and you're able to hear that. So many questions. Very remiss of me not to invite you to introduce the band.
Sure. Well, on second box, it was the one and only Leonard Brown.
Yes, absolutely.
And on piano, well, it was really keys on the bass part as well as Craig.
Yep.
And on drums, all the way from sunny Gullen and East Lothian, Gordon Smith.
Good. Now, leading up to our interview today, I posed a question. And so I'll repeat the question, okay? Let's do them in alphabetical order. So Craig, Gordon, and Leonard have all done something which, unfortunately, I never had the privilege of inviting you to do. Any ideas?
And I'm still stumped. I really don't know the answer to that question.
Back in, I'm going to say, in about 2010, I used to put on 4 Accordionist shows, as I called them.
Oh, right.
And in the very first one, our compere was Eddie Rose. And it was the Coda, an accordion orchestra that played the Jubilee Orchestra. It was Gary Sutherland with Keith and Gordon Smith. I did a couple of spots, and that was our first accordiona. As a result of the first accordiona, we did a second one, and for the second one, I invited Craig Payton to come along because Coda again. Andy Gibb agreed to do drums, so Craig and Andy did their spot together, and I booked Leonard to come along and play as well. But don't know if you recall, he had quite a serious hand injury when he caught his hand in a door.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
It really would have been curtains for the rest of his musical career, but I managed to get to the right people and they sorted it, and he's playing as great as ever now.
Yeah, he showed me the stitches that he'd had to have in his hand, and he came along to just to support the event, but we drafted in Roddy Matthews and Gary Forrest at the last minute to help out. Yeah. But then at the third one, we finally managed to nail. Andy Gibb did a spot himself, and Leonard did a spot himself. So we finally managed to get him to come along. And of course, with Leonard, you don't just get the playing side of things; you get the stories as well. Which,
of course, he's a showman, and that's his job. That's what he does best, and there are few better.
Yeah, I think he's picked up from You mentioned Tom Alexander, but I think also, is it one of the Tartan lads, is Ray Cars?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I think then we did a fourth one, and I think Leonard did manage to make. Yes, he made it along to the fourth one. He definitely came along to the fourth one. So he should have done 3 of them. Did 2, but yes, unfortunately, I stopped doing them because, to be honest, it's difficult trying to keep doing them. It's if you're trying to put on these sort of shows, they start off very, very popular, and as a result of the first one, you maybe do a second one. It's difficult trying to maintain the momentum, which I think is something that you need in the accordion movement. So I would have to,
it's
give
hard to
huge
keep
credit.
that going. Of course,
Yes.
the very first
Yeah.
one of these things, there's a novelty and, dare I say, a nosiness amongst the
Yes.
punters who want to just come along and see, oh, this is the first one, and to say that I was at the first one.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do, and then the novelty wears off.
Yeah, it's amazing. Something like, for example, the Shetland Accordion and Fiddle Festival. Obviously not running this year, but they've been going for is it at least 20, 30 years that they've been going?
Yeah, 30-something years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and that's testament to a great committee, obviously, over the years, and just a real hunger for that festival to happen, especially from those of us that live down here and want to travel up every year as a kind of, if I can describe it, as a pilgrimage, really, towards Lerwick and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back then to early days with you mentioned Ian Muir, who I believe then also became a one of the lecturers at the RSAMD.
That's correct. Yes.
But so you started about the age of 8, but it wasn't long before you were competing at festivals.
Well, actually, my first competitive experience was out with the accordion and Scottish scene. It was actually in the school's Burns competitions run by the Robert Burns World Federation, and I was very successful in the early days, winning the Ayrshire Heat, and then was put forward for the national competitions. Now, the number of school pupils that compete every year, or did compete every year at the time, was about 300,000. It was a lot of from the various schools coming together, and I was lucky enough to perform 2 or 3 times at the national finals and won it in 95 or 96, and I was crowned the junior Burnsian of the year.
Excellent.
And 5 or so years after that, I was the young Burnsian of the year, and that afforded me some opportunities to play at great venues and occasions, big burn suppers throughout the land, and it really was a great experience for a young teenager, certainly to perform alongside some great entertainers at the time, and it was really good fun. Then obviously I got a taste for the accordion competitions, and that's really where I started to make my name, I think.
Sure. So
my first competitive win at a national level, I think, was at the old Musselburgh Brunton Halls for the National Associations Festival, and I won the under-12 accordion solo. I think I had to play I don't know if it would be a March to Spain reel in those days for the under-12s. It might have been a medley. I think I played a medley.
Yeah.
And it was all straightforward after that, I would like to think, but yeah. Junior and senior competitions came after that, and I think I did pretty well.
Yes, indeed. Tell us a little bit about the 2 sort of main competitions, Perth and Musselburgh, which, although it's not held in Musselburgh anymore.
No, I don't know. Affectionately, a lot of people still refer to it as the Musselburgh Festival, and it's the big festival, the yearly festival run by the National Association of Accordion and Fiddle Clubs, and numerous sections to enter, whether that's solo sections, trios, bands, fiddle groups, etc., etc. And I won the junior Scottish Championship 3 times, and to my knowledge, I'm the only person to have won the Senior Championship 5 times. So it was always a great festival for me. I always felt as if I was in my element, and a lot of trophies came my way during those years.
And tell us a little bit about at the Musselburgh Festival. There is the traditional open section. There is the pipe open section, and it's the combination. The results in the combination of the two. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, to be the overall champion of the day, you have to have an accumulative score from both the pipe section and the traditional section.
Sure.
And I think I did that 3 or 4 times. I would have to look back the record book, but certainly the senior Scottish accordion solo, I won that 5 times.
Yep.
Which is still to be beaten. So there we go. There's a wee advert.
Yeah, well, I'd say if somebody manages to do that, they'll be doing very well. From a sort of apprenticeship point of view, I found that you see, I used to compete in competitions from that were local to Cheltenham, where I came from, and entered up to and including sort of junior UK level. I got up to the junior UK level. Then I focused on doing the, getting through my grade 8, doing my diplomas with the British College of Accordionists. By the age of 18, I was up in Scotland, and one of my pupils was Keith Dixon, and so competing at the festivals was something that I never really did. And I almost feel as if I sort of missed out on part of my apprenticeship by not carrying on. I'd been competing, again, myself. I think the first competition I ever played at was the Albury Court Music Festival in Bristol, which had an accordion section. And I would have been about 9 or 10 then. And then going, as I say, on to the sort of UK level. I went down to Portsmouth to compete down there. I hadn't previously competed at Bridgewater, but I always felt that I missed out on the apprenticeship. The fact that the competitions, they really do hone your skills, don't they?
Yes. Well, I was just going to mention that competitions aren't everyone's cup of tea.
They're not.
They don't like the pressure. They don't like the competitive side of things. They would prefer their music to be the fun hobby part.
Yes.
But I would agree with you. I always found that I wanted to develop my skills. Yeah. And if I wasn't quite up to scratch, I wanted to practice more. There were years during the kind of Musselburgh and Perth years when I was really very competitive. I was practicing 3.5, 4 hours a day, every day, to try and work on these various things, and hopefully the practice years ago is still working for me, although I'm practicing now again, like not quite as I used to, but I'm certainly practicing again, which is great. It's not everyone's fun thing to do is practice a musical instrument, but when you're a wee bit older, you realise that it has to be done.
I think
we mentioned Perth, of course. Perth Festival, certainly the Senior Accordion Championship, the All Scotland Accordion Championship, as it's described, that's the one everyone wants to win.
Yep.
And I've been very lucky to have won that twice and been involved in upwards of 7 or 8 finals. So I've had a fair crack at it. And I'm still ambitious. I'm still very competitive and would love to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I managed to get through to the final on one occasion, which I was very pleased about. Apart from the fact that, as I've mentioned on previous videos, it was interesting that 2 weeks later, my wife and I were in a shop in Innerleithen, which happened to have Radio Scotland playing on the background, and it was the 2 weeks later. It was the program about the Perth Festival.
Yes.
So I actually heard a bit of me playing, and there was I I can't remember who else was.
2011 or 12. It would be around about that. 2010, maybe?
Yeah. No, it would have been later than that. Well, I know it was one of the years that you won it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
So it'll be 2013 then.
And I think it was Brandon that was second.
I can't quite remember, but yeah, that would be 2013.
2013. Yeah. And so we had the Robert Black being interviewed on the radio. And,
yes, of course, he's adjudicating.
Adjudicating, talking about the fact that yes, in the final six this year we had quite a mix of ages, from youngsters that have only just moved up from the junior section, up to a 50-year-old. Well, of course, Eunice started killing herself with laughter. I was only 49 at the time.
And you were racking your brains. Who was the 50-year-old that was in that final?
Well, of course, she couldn't shut up about it, could she? Told everybody for the next few days about the fact that I was officially 50. So
yeah, I don't think it really matters what your age is for these competitions. It's the mindset, and it's the ability, and it's the performance on the day. And of course, this year you're well aware that the performance is radically different, and it's going to be by video submission, which is new. That's unheard of, I suppose, for our scene and our competitive circuit. Yeah,
I think it's something that they do on the continent for some of the big televised competitions.
That's right.
Whereby you have to send in your sort of, be it a tape recording or a CD or some sort of audio of you playing. But yes, it's a great idea to keep the festival, on track. And I think it's going to be a great event, having all these videos of people playing to look at. And I think it's as well. It's in a way it's quite good that you can have a second go at it. It's like an Olympic event now. You can keep hitting the stop record and start again, can't you?
Yeah.
So that's going to be good.
Although I don't know whether that makes it easier or more difficult, because then it starts to go through your mind. Could I ever get this done properly? And a lot of people, including myself, I would say, I really like the audience in front of me. I like a live audience. I like to have that kind of adrenaline rush that hopefully all performers enjoy, and that's lacking.
Well,
so
it
is harder, I would say.
I tell you, you've seen me before. I'm not the slim 9 stone wet through person that I was when I first moved up to Scotland. I will never ever bungee jump. Getting on the stage at Perth and starting playing is the same as bungee jumping, isn't it? Because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's that same rush of adrenaline, isn't it?
Of course, that's always been the phenomenon of the playoff final. I always loved that, especially when I was younger and maybe less nervous. Sure. I think I've got more nervous as I've aged. But certainly the Musselburghs and the early Perths, I used to love that, because you had to play really well during the day to even be considered for that final 6. And then you had to do it again. You had to do it twice in one day. And when you've been on the go, when I was younger, I used to be driven up first thing in the morning to Perth, or driven through to Musselburgh, and you're talking about getting up at 5:45 in the morning and not leaving that venue till after midnight. That's a long shift, and to play at the level that we're all expected to play at is an added pressure. So
anyway, we're going to crack on to another one of your tracks, if that's okay.
Yep. Is it your choice now?
Well, yes, it is, but I don't suppose that you would mind too much. The obvious choice for me would be the Aqueli Cubani.
Yes.
Or the I really liked, obviously, that Scandinavian Scorcher.
Yeah. I'm happy for you to do the rumba, the Aquarelli.
Yeah.
A lot of talking points.
Well, Let's do a bit of that one then. But the other one that that obviously your first track is a homage to obviously Jimmy Shand.
Yes.
And then
a twist, of course.
Yes, that's right. And then you've got, your final track. I love the effect of the the piano starting off, and then you're on the single reed, and then the piano goes into almost like a sort of funky, that do your thing, the basement jack six toys thing,
Yes, of course. I've had a lot of good feedback about that track, particularly, and hopefully it's come across okay.
But yeah, let's have a little bit of Impressions of a Rumba, Aqueli Cubani by
Luciano
Chelidas. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff.
As we were discussing before, Paul, it's a very well-written piece of music.
Oh, yes.
And there are parts there for the harmony, and obviously that's my own arrangement for the group.
Sure. Yes.
It's well known as an accordion showpiece, a solo showpiece, and I decided I've never really heard that a group performing it, and I suddenly discovered that there were maybe a couple of group performances on YouTube videos, but I'm glad that I did my own thing, and with the musicians I was involved in, great credit to them, Leonard, Craig and Gordon. They really pulled it out the bag, and of course that wasn't their normal stuff. That wasn't the comfort zone for a Scottish dance band musician, but those three guys are much more than that. They're much more than just dance band players. They are the best at what they do.
Absolutely, yeah. It's it's one of those tunes that you almost think, wow, I wonder why it hasn't been done before, almost, because as you say, it's.
I don't know a lot of people playing it. Well, I would assume because it's quite difficult as a solo accordion piece. A lot of moving parts and doubled harmony lines and bass runs, and it's not everybody that wants to tackle that. Playing a set of rigs or reels is more appetizing.
Yeah. In fact, I would say the only time I've ever heard it played at a competition, I don't know if have you played it at a competition?
I don't think I've ever competed with that one, but I did play it for my final recital at university. I played it for my final recital as a proper accordion showpiece. Sure. Great fun.
No, the only time I've heard it played at a competition would have been the Advanced Championship, and it was through at Govan Town Hall. Oh, and it was by Roy Hendry, a very young Roy Hendry played it.
Yeah, well, truth be told, that's where I got the music for it.
Right.
It was from Roy, because he had played it, and I was looking for some more challenging accordion pieces. Of course, Roy had a great library of pieces at the time, and he had competed at British level, and fantastic accordionist, Roy, as well. So I then developed this love for, continental and jazz and classical, like classical accordion pieces.
So, do you know what? We've been chatting for 40 minutes. It seems like 10. Doesn't it? It doesn't the time fly? It really does. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your time at the RSAMD, which is now known as the Scottish Conservatoire?
Yes, that's right. The Royal Conservatoire
Yeah.
of Scotland, isn't it? In my day, it was the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. Studied there for 4 years between 2002 and 2006. Graduated in July of 2006, and it was a wonderful experience. And learned a lot of great stuff there. Obviously, I qualified as a secondary school music teacher, but during my 4 years, I studied everything from composition to jazz piano to solo performance skills to group work and arrangement and just everything that you could possibly want to do. And I had the added bonus because at the time when I had auditioned for both the BA in Scottish music and the B.Ed course, which I finally did, I was approached by some of the organisers and course leaders, and they said, would you still like to do a wee bit of Scottish music? Obviously, there's that love there for the traditional stuff. And I said, well, I don't really want to lose it. I'm still doing a lot of gigs. I'm working really hard, and I play Scottish music all the time.
Yeah.
So the B.Ed course couldn't really offer me that. So I did the B.Ed course with what they described at the time was the Scottish music endorsement. And that allowed me a gateway into some of the BA Scottish music material, like Gaelic songs, Scots song, Gaelic language studies, Scots history. I learned a wee bit of penny whistle and things like that, and just kept my skills up. And I was very, very fortunate to stick with Ian Muir, who was my principal tutor at the academy as well.
Yeah, I must admit, looking back at some of the competitions I've played in, Ian's actually been one of my, dare I say it, what's the best way of putting it? One of my favourite adjudicators because he always
adjudicators, Paul.
So, yeah. I was going to ask, have you ever had the opportunity to compete down south at any of the competitions south of the border?
Only once, and that's an interesting story because you mentioned Roy Hendry. Now, my father plays second accordion with the Roy Hendry band, and under the auspices of them playing for dance music down at the International Festival in Blackpool. It was held just south of Blackpool at the time, and they were allowed to take their families. So we all went down and had a great long weekend down in Blackpool, and of course experienced some of the best accordionists that I've ever heard live, and world champions and certainly world competitors as well. And I managed to compete in one of the sections there. I really wasn't down there to compete, to be honest. I was invited to do a concert spot because at the time I was the junior All Scotland champion. So it was a wee tradition to invite some champions from here down to their big concert. And I played, but I also get roped into doing one of the competitions, and it was Oleg Sharov that was adjudicating, and I played I think I played a March to Spain Reel, and it was a really technical set at the time, and I also played a classical piece, and I won that competition. So that's my wee claim to fame. I was adjudicated by the great Oleg Sharov and won that competition.
I'm still working on a tune that Oleg played at. He came along to I'm going to say Napier University in Edinburgh many years back, and I got his CD, and he does a thing by Václav Chernikov called The Russian Cowboy.
Okay, I think I've heard that. Yeah.
I'm still working on it. I am still working on it, but I'm gonna keep working on it. The one thing I would say is that having competed, for example, at the NAO competitions down in Liverpool, I did, was it 2 or 3 years down there? I hate to say this, but I find that the Scottish scene much friendlier.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of let's just say sort of not unpleasantness, but a sense of some people that felt that they were far more important than anybody else. And so I just
I think we're quite lucky here with our compare because it's all grown out of the dance band tradition. And the social side is very, very strong. So yes, for those of us that are extremely competitive, we take that part of it seriously. But these festivals are great gatherings for people. It's a social aspect, I think, that we all love. So one works for the other, you know, and it makes it what it is.
We're going to finish off then. I'm going to let you go. But we're going to finish off with another clip from the album. And I will just pop up so that everybody can see. I'm just going to do this for one moment so that everybody can see the actual album. There it is.
And of course, a wee commercial.
Yes. We seem to have lost contact with Liam briefly, but they're still there. So I think we'll just crack on. Hopefully, he was going to tell us a little bit about where to get the where you can get the album from. So what I will do is I will put up in the description a link to the website. And hopefully we'll have Liam rejoin us very shortly. I don't see any mention of it here. Oh yes, here we go. www.kayleyband.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. You're back.
Was it you that froze or me that froze?
I think it was you that froze.
Oh well, we did not too bad.
We did not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. So what I was going to do was get you to, maybe leave you to choose the last track for us to have a listen to. Let me just do this a minute.
Well, you mentioned the last set on the album, which is a set of reels and a tune that's not normally associated with any sets that we play, and it was a tune that was brought to my attention by the drummer in the band, Gordon Smith. And you've already noted what a lot of people have noted, that it's a very different sound, and the groove at the start is a wee bit different and fresh. And I would say that most of the album has a very traditional feel to it, with some twists. And this last set was a kind of blown away any cobwebs, I suppose, and it was quite different. But then we're back into the traditional idiom thereafter. So I've just decided to call the set of the item in the album Real Reels.
Yes, lovely. I'm just going to quickly do this.
And I suppose just for anyone that's listening, the first tune in that set of reels is called Frida. It's a Kenny Baker tune, which comes from the pseudo jazz hillbilly kind of playing. So not, as I say, associated with our scene particularly. So I know if I hear anyone playing this tune now, that perhaps they've heard it from my album, which would be nice.
Lovely. Okay. Now then, let's move on to this one. Well, let me do this first.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add this back in. I have to add this back in. Let's do this. So track 17. Track 17. Have I got that right? Yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Strip the Will. Strip the Will. Yeah. Lovely. Let's play some of that.
Yeah.
Okay. That was really nice. As I say, I really like that. Those sort of introductions, which they just take you somewhere that you haven't been, and they sort of...
A lot of the feedback that I've been getting from anyone who's purchased the album and heard that, they've been commenting on just about every track, but that one particularly is usually how they start the conversation. Oh, that last track's a wee bit different. And I never know whether they mean different as in I really like it or different I don't like it at all. Or somewhere in between. But yeah, as long as they've heard it, and it's certainly a statement.
Yeah. The other one, of course, is you've got your Scandinavian one and your Volscomet.
Yes, that's right. It was actually a piece of music that I'd heard years ago. I think I'd heard Ian McPhail and Brian Griffin playing it to a very high standard, very enjoyable, and I'm sure Ian Muir had recorded it in one of his albums and loved it, but never actually played it for some reason. And I probably would have had access to the music in years gone by, but it was never part of repertoire. So Leonard had suggested, when I said, right, what do we want to put in this album? And I need a couple of maybe continental pieces. And he suggested, why not play that one? Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'll have a wee listen to it. And I thought, this is going to work really well with the type of harmonies that Leonard and I tend to do, the kind of thirds harmonies, and it's going to work really well. And the other two boys did a great job with the rhythm and the harmony as well.
Yeah. Shall we finish off with a little bit, though, of your Scandinavian one?
Sure. And this is the Sakjärven polka.
Lovely. Let's have a little bit of Scandinavian. A Scandinavian scorcher.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, before we had a little bit of freezing out,
Yes.
you were going to say something, and you said it was about the sort of advertising, and we never got to hear what you were going to say. What I mentioned in between is that if you send me your the address that people can order the album from, I'll pop it in the description below so that you can get it
Sure.
that way. But because I
There's
see
no harm in me saying it just now, though. It's kaylyband.net.
yes,
That's the band website, and you can buy the albums straight from the website.
that's right. That's
really
right. I've
easy.
got it. It's on the last page here.
That's right.
And it's
Yeah.
I'll get my finger out the way. There it is at the bottom. www.kaylyband. Try and get it centered. There we go.
I'm sure if you just
Kaylyband.net.
put kaylyband.net in your search engine, you'll get it, no problem.
Absolutely.
It's the Liam Stewart Band website.
Exactly. Well, Liam, it's been absolutely brilliant to catch up with you again, pal. After I'm trying to think when the last time it would have been up at Shetland, wouldn't it?
It could have been.
The last time I spoke. So anyway,
it's been lovely. Thanks very much for having me involved.
You're very welcome. It's great
and to all the listeners and subscribers out there, I hope you're doing well, and I hope that we can see you all at some concert or gig or dance in the not so distant future.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to say cheerio, and thank you very much, Liam.
Thank you very much, Paul. Bye.
Bye for now.